And next, what we have is another panel discussion that will actually take further the discussion on omni-channel. And we'll talk about omni-channel transformation and the winning formula for the ME brands. Please welcome on stage our brilliant panelists as I introduce them. Our first panelist is Daniel Gomez, Chief Digital Officer at Al-Malki Group. Before moving to the Middle East, Daniel worked with Inditex, the biggest fashion retailer in the world, working on brands like Zara, Massimo Dutti, just to mention a few. Daniel is on a mission to accelerate Al-Malki's transformation and secure a leading position in luxury businesses in Saudi Arabia, but also work its ambitious expansion plans in the GCC and beyond. Welcome on stage, Daniel. And thank you, audience. You've been so supportive, really. Thank you, each and every one of you. Our next panelist is Mohammed Jamsheer. He's a Director of Marketing and Digital at Gulf Air. Mohammed, he runs the marketing division at the national carrier of Bahrain. His most notable work in this role has been developing the airline's digital department, where he heads digital operations and development. He's got over 13 years of experience in executing international and regional integrated marketing campaigns and communication. Please welcome Mohammed Jamsheer. And our next panelist is an old friend of mine, is Shyam Sunder. He's the Chief Marketing Officer at eyewa. Shyam is one of the leading marketeers in the region with rich experience in building successful brands across sectors and markets. He headed marketing of Centerpoint with Landmark Group, as you all know, the largest fashion omni-channel retailer in the region. And he recently joined eyewa. So please welcome Shyam on stage. And our next panelist is Samer Saad. He's a regional lead at AppsFlyer Middle East. Samer is responsible for growing the company's footprint in the region. Based in Dubai, Samer brings a wealth of experience to the role. He spent over 10 years in the industry working at notable brands such as Yahoo. And to moderate this session, I would like to welcome Abhinav Mishra. He's the Director of Strategy and just amazing person who makes this event so wonderful at Martechvibe. Abhinav worked for nearly a decade with some leading media brands such as Bloomberg Businessweek, ME, Khalij Times, and now he heads the business strategy at the Vibe Projects. So over to you, Abhinav, and welcome on stage.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you to everyone in the audience for joining us for the past 2 days. I think you've been very supportive. And as Saurav was giving a presentation on Omni-channel, we're just going to take the conversation forward. And obviously, I have some really great names over here with me on the panel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set you guys up first before we move into the questions. And as I was researching on the questions that we're going to get you guys to answer, I came across this particular incident in the States, right? There's this journalist who wanted to buy a treadmill from Target, the company. Went to the store, checked out the treadmill, really liked it. He's like, okay, I'm going to go home and check the price online. Check the price online, $1,000 difference. Yeah? Obviously, he bought it online. And then the treadmill came for delivery. The driver is like, okay, it's too heavy for me to unload it myself. I don't have a helper with me, so I'm going to reschedule your delivery. Takes the treadmill back, and this guy gets a message that you have refused shipment. And that's when his ordeal starts, right? From Twitter to Facebook, calling customer care, everyone. And then they finally tell him that, okay, we can't, give you the treadmill back because it's already reached the warehouse. We're going to cancel the order, refund you the money. You can book the treadmill again. He's like, okay. And this has already been a week, right? They cancel the order, they refund the money. He goes online and it says the product is not available. And he says, I know there's a treadmill in your warehouse there, right? The reason why I mentioned this incident is because when you talk about omni-channel strategy, it's about channels communicating with each other, right? to offer that experience, the customer experience that we're talking about. And which brings me to my first question. I'm going to start with you, Mohammed. Like everyone's talking about technology in the last 2 days, Martech, obviously. But when we talk about omni-channel strategy, I want to know what are your views on omni-channel culture, right, within the organization, and who do you think should drive that, and how do you drive that?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that example, first of all, which is completely a failure of an omni-channel strategy.
I'm going to be the devil's advocate today. So.
Okay, sure, of course. So we're so used to looking at our counterparts in IT to develop a digital strategy. I think we need to change our mindset, make sure that IT is a part that's only supposed to deliver. And it's up to the business to make sure that they're implementing all of these strategies necessary across all of the business operational units to make sure that this delivery is successful within the organization. So whenever you're going for a digital transformation project, you need to make sure there are brand ambassadors throughout the organization to make sure that this is actually taken forward in the organization, changing processes, changing the mindset of the organization to adopt this brand new way of working. In the past 18 months, we've seen a big shift in the way we work. And I think it was very sudden. But when you're implementing a strategy, you work with your counterparts in IT, you work with your business units to work in parallel to develop that strategy at its core to make sure it works.
Yeah.
Daniel, I'm going to come to you with the same question.
Well, I think you're asking who's driving it. And I think everything has to come from the CEO. If the CEO does not understand that the world has changed and that people move between channels, and if this message is not repeated every day, then it's not going to work. So if you see the most successful omni-channel retailers in the world, and you see all the interviews, public interventions from the CEOs, from Nike, from Inditex, is all about integrated experiences, and the message has to be repeated every single day so that it sticks into people's mind. And obviously, as the layer goes down, then all the leaders, they have to understand that each member of any team has an impact. So here in this experience you're talking about, here we're talking about delivery, we're talking about a refund, finance, we're talking about obviously technology, the customer bought online, and all of them, they have to be aligned, they have to talk to each other. So it's how we break silos between departments. And if the CEO is driving a vision and putting everyone under this North Star vision, then it's going to work. Otherwise, it's going to be a failure.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, please.
One step further in the sense that I think it should start at the board level, because you do have representatives from the board across functions, and then that's the best way to cascade it, right across to the lowest possible person on the floor. So all the gaps and the silos are formed because of there is lack of that intent, and really it's omni-channel is a vision. You got to say that it's a single customer we're looking at, and we are serving the customer across channels. So that needs to come from the board level.
Makes sense.
That's my experience. Yeah.
No, I think that's a very valid point. And in fact, I was coming to you with the next question itself. Like when we talk about a seamless experience, that's what the omni-channel approach is all about. But why do we increasingly see brands suffer trying to deliver it, despite all the resources that they have, despite everything that we're talking about?
So again, when it comes from the board level, see what happens is when the, let's say, retail operations CEO, which normally handles operations, he takes it on and then he starts passing it on across functions, then it just doesn't work out. What happens is there is a culture which needs to firstly come into that organization, saying that we are moving from single channel to multi-channel, and therefore we need to serve the customer in an omni fashion. From there comes the single view of the customer perspective, which is not really a data-driven topic at all. Single view of the customer is a complete transformation of an organization, where you say that I'm not competing with, like the retail is not competing with the online. So that's where basic.
Are you sure?
I'm just saying that's the discussions, or those are the arguments we had when we started our journey in Landmark. And it took 2 years or 3 years to break the silos. And even from a P&L perspective, even today when I look at organizations, they have two two sheets of P&L. One is online, one is offline. You can't have that. Simple things like attribution to the store. If a store is fulfilling customers for an omni-channel feature, like let's say click and collect, why does he want to serve the customer if he starts looking at that customer as a competing customer? So I'm saying that single view of the customer needs to come right across to the store level for it to work across functions, and there needs to be a strong buy-in from the top to bottom. If there is no buy-in, then there's a bit of confusion. It's really not a genuine kind of effort, when you're right there across the counter with the customer.
So if you're saying that we see difference in the experience people have across stores and online,
Yeah.
and the discrimination begins at home, that's because the organizations themselves discriminate between the two platforms.
Yeah.
Basically. And Sam, I would like to bring you in over here is because we're talking about frictional experience. That's something that you guys do help your clients deliver, right? So what is your view on why do you think brands are, increasingly suffering from or suffer to deliver that experience to their customers?
I think to tap into this, I want to take a step back first. I want to actually reference what Ryan, the CMO of Shalhoub Group, mentioned on his keynote yesterday. It has to start with empathy. You need to empathize with your users. You need to know why. First of all, where did they come from? Were they driven by a campaign you ran? Is it a influencer that drove them there? Is it your own posts on your own media? And then, okay, they came to you. Where did they come to you? Did they come to store? Did they open your app? Did they go on your website? And why? Why are they there? What are they looking to achieve? Once you've identified these, then you have a holistic view of the user journey. With that comes the next step, which is data, right? Everybody talks about big data. Oh my God, we want to collect big data because we want to understand the users better. But it's not just about collection. You need to know what to collect, and you need to collect it efficiently. Collecting it efficiently means also tying it into the other players in your tech stack so that you can actually drive the third element, which is insights. Because the insights will tell you why your user is happy, unhappy, where the challenges are, that's why you have reviews on app stores, so that they can tell you that your app is buggy, fix it. This is where we're facing issues, right? And once you've done all of these, then you'll have the mix to start working on omnichannel.
But Sam, I'm just going to go a bit off script over here because what you mentioned exactly is brands are investing heavily in, right? And we see a failure when you talk about the omnichannel strategy, despite all of these investments being made, and despite, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of brands have that approach. In that scenario, why do you think that happens? And still, why is it happening?
I'm going to give you a couple of examples. One, we see a lot of investment going into mimicking offline experience in the online world. Why would you do that? The online realm opens huge potential for you. You can create a very new experience for your users that will actually make them more loyal to you. You don't want to bring a store into their phone. You can use augmented reality, for example. If you're a fashion retailer, they don't need to come to your store. You can just create lenses and filters, and they'll be able to see themselves in your product. That will make the purchase path way shorter. To give you another example, we see a lot of investment going into data collection, but like I said, they're collecting bulks of data without actually tying it properly with the other tech providers. What use is CDP if you collect all the information about your users and you don't pass it anywhere, you don't use it, right? The point of collection is to drive insights and then to link it to the other channels so that you can activate it.
Absolutely. Shyam, I'm going to come back to you based on what Sam said about, the execution. And you, Mohammed and Daniel, all of you all spoke about the culture or the mindset at a holistic level, right? Or strategic level. But when you talk about the execution, what are the challenges that you think plagues the entire omnichannel strategy at the execution level for marketing leaders?
So I just read an interesting paper on omnichannel marketing excellence. It has really three pillars. One is CDP, which is really how are you deploying CDP now, and how matured is that journey in your organization when it comes to deployment of CDP. CDP is, I know it's all about data all coming together, but then looking cross-channel kind of insights and analytics to make sure that, again, the actions you take from the data is seamless. So that's one part of it. Second is, of course, CX. And when you see offline and online stores, you can see a completely different experience. Very few brands have got it right, So how do you engage the customer from the first, when they step into your store, or the first, when they come into your site and app? How seamless is that experience, and how do you define that experience? Because it's not easy to take it across. These are very different kind of experiences, these channels. So CX is something which needs to be defined, and then you say that this is the way my brand is going to be experienced. So that's then comes, of course, the cross-channel orchestration or the cross-channel marketing, where you kind of have you bring together everything. You bring together calendars and events and budgets, and then it's all about product pricing. Everything what you spoke about needs to reflect. One thing I want to tell you is that I've just finished 3-4 days in eyewa. So traditional retailers, when they go offline, when they go online, it's much harder. It takes more time to break the silos and embrace the omni-channel culture than those few who are going from online to offline. So from day one in eyewa, I see reports and reviews being done, omni-channel reports and reviews being done. Everything is spoken very casually. They speak about omni-channel, whereas for 6-7 years we struggled to get there. To see that, look at your performance.
The happiness is evident on your face now.
Yeah. So I'm just saying it's a big relief. So because I think it's also about the kind of leadership which is there. For them, it's like, it's no rocket science. It's natural to look at things from a single view of the customer. So that's one point of difference I had in both these companies.
Great.
I just want to add
Yeah.
an example here about a brand that actually is an offline behemoth that actually is adopting innovative thinking, which is Carrefour. I don't know how many of you guys know that Carrefour opened the first cashierless, contactless supermarket in Dubai Mall.
I did.
So this is a great example of how offline thinking retailers or hypermarkets can actually adopt and be innovative.
Absolutely. Mohammed, yeah, please.
Sorry, it's not working. So coming to this challenge on execution and related to the first panel we had earlier about customer care, I think the challenge is when companies, they just create a customer care team and they keep it there in the corner, but actually customer care, customer experience has to be risen to the highest level. Our real boss is not the CEO, it's the customer.
Yep.
So if we really listen to the customer, not only checking the data is very important. We have to see how much we're selling and the hard data, but we also have to see the stories and get these stories going through all the organization. So any customer counts. This example from Target, this is a customer that created a great impact in Twitter, telling everyone. So we have to listen to the customer and take actions on what the customer is asking us to do.
Yeah. Your customer really drives change within the organization as well. So when you have these types of issues, it should change processes within the organization. But within the organization as well, and I believe all my colleagues kind of will share the same kind of view, sometimes we feel that digital transformation can just be a checkbox. We purchased this system, we've put this in, and that's it. We can just close this chapter, which is not really the case. All of these systems and these strategies that we implement require a lot of input. And it's this input which allows us to evolve and become a lot better in what we're doing. And that's the whole point of digital transformation. We're transforming an organization. So you will feel, especially when it's a legacy organization, you will feel a lot of pushback, a lot of resistance. And it's up to us really to change and drive that culture, because we can purchase the best system in the world, but if my operational units are not inputting all that information in it in order for us to evolve and change, we're not really transforming. We just purchased another system that's sitting idle.
Absolutely. And continuing with you, Mohammed, we discussed about obviously the experience, the strategy, the culture, the mindset. But another important aspect of the omni-channel strategy, marketing strategy, is context, right? It's very basic, very basic. But we still see brands sending the wrong message and at the wrong time to the wrong audience.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on this?
So my biggest thought in this is that, and my biggest piece of advice for everyone is, if you ever see a brand that's talking to you and it calls you as dear customer, just don't deal with that brand, because you've already killed the fact that you're not a personalized organization. And you find that these organizations are purchasing all of these systems and they are driving this brand promise that we're seamless and we're positive in our experience, but then they come to you and they say dear customer, which already kills the entire
Or even worse, when your market email automation tool doesn't work, dear quotes, customer name quotes.
customer name. That's
Exactly.
even worse. I mean, just keep it a hello and keep it basic. You don't need to tell your customer, I don't have these types of systems, So I just feel, even in your communication and the brand promise that you have for your customer, it needs to be as positive, as seamless as the end result. So in all lines of communication, it needs to be very clear that you are personalizing things. I shouldn't be promoting summer destinations as an airline. That's always the way I talk. I don't even call customers anymore customers. I call them passengers. So, it's whenever you see an ad for the summer and then they have like a winter destination, it's snowing and it says enjoy your summer break, you feel that there's a huge disconnect between what the brand is trying to tell you over then this kind of personalized brand promise they provide you.
Absolutely. Sam,
Yeah.
you want to add something, I think?
Yeah, I just wanted to add another example of great customer care. All these answering machines where you can't get to a human being and it takes you 10 minutes to actually reach a person to tell them what the problem is. So I think that's another error where a lot of brands are investing heavily in technology that is not yet ready,
Agreed.
especially for their use cases.
Absolutely. Daniel, I'm going to come to you. Obviously, we see increasing challenges for the marketing, and when we talk about how to break data silos and create new opportunities, right? While at the other end, you also have to battle data privacy concerns that limit the use of that particular data. Now, how do you overcome this peculiar problem? You have to break down the silos, create new opportunities, but at the same time, you have to make sure that you don't cross over.
Well, our group, we work with multiple brands, but in our privacy policy, so it's very important to take this seriously, and it's going to get even tougher. So we don't have GDPR in the region, but now very soon we'll have new regulations in the UAE. Saudi will come. So we are taking in advance measures to secure our customer data, and we have to be realistic. The data that belongs to a particular brand belongs to that brand. Whenever we want to see overall group level data, we just see this data anonymized. So we're never gonna take data from one brand, put it into another brand. This is against the ethics and the agreements that we have towards our customers and towards the brands. So yes, data silos can be broken, but always respecting the privacy. Anonymized data is a very good way to see high-level metrics and being transparent with the customer. When we're getting our customer data, the opt-in has to be transparent. We have to tell the customer why we're taking this data, because we don't want them to be surprised with sudden communication spam. It has to be very clear in any touch point what we're going to do with this data.
Great. Sam, Daniel just spoke about how you have to be very transparent, obviously, and I'm sure you work with a lot of customers trying to help them overcome this particular problem. How do you do that, and what is your point of view?
So I just want to first clarify something. Privacy is not the opposite of transparency. You can break down silos within the organization without jeopardizing the actual privacy of your users, right? With GDPR is one example, but if you look at iOS 14.5, or if you look at the upcoming iOS 15, Apple has taken a very, very strong stance towards user privacy. We all know why. We're not going to name anybody here, but basically, what you need to do is collect your first-party data, make sure it's hashed, make sure it's anonymized, make sure your servers are secure, and then pass it in an aggregated level to your marketing channels. That's the way for you to go. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to communicate with your customers on a more personal level. It's just not going to be one-to-one. But 1 to 5 is still okay. You still get to those users. They're still going to like you for trying, rather than just blaming the industry and not doing anything, right?
Absolutely makes sense. Last question, since we are running out of time, I'm going to come back to you, Daniel. With the digital acceleration at an all-time high, right? We've obviously seen the traditional roles evolve, but how do you see the digital roles evolving in the future? And you being the chief digital officer, I would like to start with you.
So first of all, now where everyone is talking about the lack of digital talent, so this challenge have to be tackled, and more people are learning the skills required for the new requirements from our customers. This challenge is going to still be here with us for a couple of years, but then actually the goal and is the education system in many countries, how they adapt so that people that are learning and studying, they're really going to be studying what the skills that we need for the 21st century. But in the future, in an organization, I think everyone, that's the vision, everyone should be digital first. We live in a digital world, and before performance marketing, CPI, all these acronyms, they sound like Chinese to people in the organizations. They will have to learn it, and it's not rocket science. I mean, we're not talking about Bitcoin and blockchain, which is a bit more complex. But so that's the first thing, getting the knowledge all around the organization. And then, as Mohammed just mentioned, we come to organizations to drive change. So we are there pushing and creating this culture, but we also have to keep in mind that the world is changing all the time. So only the paranoid survive or innovate or die. They are the mottos that we have to have in any organization. So yes, the chief digital officer and similar roles, they come to drive change. There is a moment when the organization already embedded in the operative system this continuous adaptability. And then, yeah, many CDOs, they just leave the organization and this is embedded, or many they evolve to a chief marketing officer, many companies they call chief customer officer. But I think there should be always someone in the organization pushing for this paranoid mindset. We have to be all the time alert because the world changes all the time.
You mentioned that some of them become CMOs, some of them become chief customer officers, but you also mentioned that organizations should have a digital first strategy. So don't you think the chief digital officers could be the next CEOs as well?
Yeah, could be, but I think the role that should really be empowered in the organizations at the C level is the customer care team. Like this, everything, the feedback that is coming to the customer should go directly to the top, to everyone, and then people will take actions.
Absolutely. I think that your next leaders of organizations are the current CDOs and CMOs of organizations. I believe they're your next CEOs. They will be driving the organizations of the future.
Great. I think that's a great last statement, unless anyone wants to add anything. Yeah.
I just want to ask to change my title to CMO. But, no, that aside, I just want to leave you guys with another example of a company that did something innovative, something amazing. So if you Google drones and QR code, you're going to see an ad that was actually done in Hong Kong by a gaming app developer. And what these guys did is they actually got drones to display a QR code in the sky. And people from the ground, very far away, could scan it, and that would lead to the App Store for them to download that app. It's a gaming app. And this was actually measured. It was linked, right? So you can link a QR code, and then any install that's driven by that QR code is actually tagged to that campaign. So you can measure your ROI, your CPI, and so on. This is just one example of how you, as a brand, can be innovative, at the same time measure everything correctly. And because I realized we talked a lot about the problems, but we didn't focus so much on what are the steps, what should you do.
I focused on problems. You were supposed to focus on solutions.
So yeah, I just wanted to leave you guys with that example. And yeah, I guess I'll see you around.
And that example you've given it in the right city, Dubai, because if there's one city where we can look at the most extravagant or unthought of campaigns, I think this is the place. So I think that's a perfect example.
And we had it for New Year's, I think, at Burj Khalifa or Burj Al Arab. Not long ago. They had drones that were doing some light shows.
Yes.
So this isn't something we can't do. I'm not telling you to spend a crazy amount of money to get drones to fly out a QR code, but just think outside the box, right? This has actually put Hong Kong and this company on the news forever because they're the first to have done this. And it blew my mind. Oh, they're a client of ours. They're tracking this through our technology.
Yeah, and I'm gonna come into your question. I think regarding the future role of those CDOs, I think there is a lack of understanding when the people listen to the word digital. Everybody thinks about systems and technology, blah blah blah.
No.
But actually, the best digital leaders, and I have a great example. IKEA chief digital officer is a person with a great experience, but it's focused not only on the technology, it's focused what's happening on the field. It's changing the behaviors. It's like a trainer in the gym pushing you to work harder. And obviously this type of people, they understand the world where we live in. They're probably, they will become CEOs because we live in a digital world.
Absolutely. I'm sorry we are over time, but thank you so much once again, everyone. Thank you so much. I would request everyone to please give a big round of applause to our panelists today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.